Hello, everyone, and thank you for stopping by Lifestyle with Melonie Graves, where I share stylish and creative ideas to help you do what makes you happy in your home. Today, I am so excited because one of the people who makes me happy in my home and in my life is our special guest that we have here today. A couple weeks ago, during the 12 Days of Christmas, we started talking a little bit about self-care during the holidays, and I promised you I'd have a very special guest who is here with me today. We are going to welcome Dr. Kimberly Boone. She is an accomplished author. She is a certified life coach. She is a Christian counselor, but most importantly, she is my best friend. So joining me and extending a warm welcome. Welcome, Dr. Kimberly.
Thank you. What an intro. Best part of that is that I am your best friend.
Yes.
Love you so much. So glad to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, just talking. And, because we are longtime best friends, I will probably refer to her with our nickname, everybody. So y'all can call her Dr. Kimberly, but to me, she's Chickadee. Chickadee. So
I was wondering if we were going to expose ourselves. Are we saying Mel? What are we doing?
Listen, we keep it real over here. You know me. So I figured I'd let you kind of introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we could dive into some of the things that I know I personally have been experiencing this season. And if I'm going through it, other people are going through it. So I wanted a professional to come in and see how we can help people throughout the season.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I'm from Tampa, just like Melonie, just like Chick. We met here in Tampa in third grade. I think fourth generation, Chick?
Yeah.
Fourth?
Yeah.
Yeah, fourth generation. I am a child of God, first of all, that loves to help people live their most victorious lives, right?
Yeah.
The victorious life that God created us to live. And I do that through life coaching, mental health work, and also soul work, right?
Yep.
I love cooking and baking. I find both to be very therapeutic, especially baking. So I love baking, everybody. And, as Mel said, I am a writer. I'm working on my third book right now, which is a children's book on self-esteem and identity. And speaking of identity, that is my passion. That is my passion, helping people find out who they really are. Because when you find out who you really are, then that will reveal your purpose and what you're supposed to be doing here. So that's just a little bit about me and why I've chose the work that I've chosen, and I believe I'm anointed to do it. So
she is.
Yeah. So thank you for having me. So good to be here.
Thank you. I one of the perks of you being my bestie is that I get a lot of free advice. So, I try to find ways to add value to my audience. And so, thank you for doing this for me. I'll hit you up on the back end, girl, with something. Okay. Okay.
No problem.
So let's dive right into it. I'll start a little bit of the backstory. I do this 12 Days of Christmas campaign every single year for the past several years now. And it's something that I really pour my all into. I have noticed over the last couple years that I've been feeling very drained and exhausted, afterwards. And that's always the very beginning of the season, because I do this early for my audience, and then by the time we get to Christmas, I'm like, whew. I have a list of questions here, and so the first one kind of leads into that, which is, I find myself not enjoying the holidays by the time I get to it. And
for sure.
How can I do all the things that I need to do, give to, first of all, my family, my husband, my kids, be at all the parties, be at all the concerts, be at all the things.
All the things.
And still do what I need to do to feel like I'm at my best.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Before I even hit that question, Chick, I I want to say that while this is a merry and bright season, it's the most wonderful time of the year. It is not for a lot of us. In fact, like 40% of people have reported that their stress levels go through the roof just during this time.
Yeah.
Suicidal rates go up during this time. And so that's why this conversation, that question in particular, is so important, because we all kind of feel it, right? So, how can I do all the things I need to do without being exhausted and actually enjoy it? And I'd say that the answer to that is just knowing yourself and accepting, what you need. And the way to do that, I believe, is choosing your mental health first, right? Choosing to do the things that bring you joy. And so I think that requires, because when you say all the things, right? All the things include things that they like, he likes, she likes, but what is bringing me joy, right? And so in order to know yourself and accept yourself, you have to know a little bit about yourself. And so I think that requires some introspection, maybe asking yourself some questions like, what brings me joy?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What makes me nervous? What makes me anxious, right? What takes my energy level from I'm rocking out pretty good to completely, depleted, right? And so it's knowing those things. What completely depletes me? You have to know these things. I remember when my mom passed away, and Aretha, she asked me, what do you like? Right? And I couldn't even tell her. I said, what's your favorite color? I couldn't even tell her because I was so busy doing all the things and doing all the things for everyone else. Here I was, a grown woman, didn't even know my favorite color, right? So really knowing about yourself, knowing what deregulates me, meaning what throws my nervous system out of whack, right? What gets me out of sorts, puts me on these emotional, tailspins, right? Because it's knowing all of those things that will help you navigate and say, you know what? I don't have to do these 5 things this year, right? I can cross this off of my list this year, right? And then really incorporating the things that you need, again, knowing yourself and your needs, really incorporating that into the holiday season.
So digging a little bit deeper on that knowing yourself, which makes sense, from a practicality standpoint, though. For me, I'll just use myself as an example. One of the I don't want to say habit, but one of the things that I'm trying to work on in my own personal life is not equating my self-value with what I am giving to people. Because I always feel like if I'm not giving something, I'm not bringing value, right? And so part of that knowing yourself for me is knowing when to say no.
Yes.
And,
that's good.
I want to talk to you about how, but and it's the holiday season. So a lot of times you don't want to say no. You want to feel like you can host all the dinners and be with all the family members that drive you crazy and all that stuff.
Right, exactly.
So from a practicality standpoint, how do you know when to say no or when it's okay to say no? And how do you not feel bad about that?
Yeah. Well, I think some of it is really accepting the reality that you're going to disappoint some people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Every day we disappoint people, right? And that's just knowing because my path is different from your path. And I should be respecting, the path that you're walking on, as you should be respecting the path that I'm walking on, right? And so if I'm in your life and you tell me, you know what, chick, I can't bake the cupcakes or whatever it is, right? I should know you well enough to know that that's just something not in your bandwidth right now, right?
Right.
And so being comfortable with the people you are around because you know yourself,
right?
And only you know your capacity, right? I know that I can't handle these 5 things this year, right? I know I can't handle the Secret Santa or whatever the thing is, right? I normally do it every year. There is an expectation of me, right? And so it's really disconnecting from what other people want versus what you need, right?
Yeah.
And that goes right into identity, right? Knowing that my pleasure or delight in you doesn't affect who you are at the end of the day, right? You don't have to people please for this to be a merry and bright season. Because if you are people pleasing, we're the only ones getting pleased, right?
Right.
Meanwhile, you're hating Christmas.
Right. I'm in the corner going, I'm tapping out, waving the white flag.
Yes.
We still got 12 days before Christmas even get here. I'm done.
Right, exactly. So it is really knowing who you are, being comfortable in that, being comfortable in your voice, and really knowing that you have agency. I think, no matter what else we talk about on this call today, I want your community to walk away with knowing I have agency, right? I get to choose, right? I get to choose whether or not I want to go to the Christmas dinner. I get to choose whether or not I want to participate in Secret Santa. I get to choose whether or not I want to go on the family trip to Colorado.
Right.
I get to choose that, right? Perhaps when you were younger, you did not have agency, right? Most of us did not.
Nope. Not in my mama's house,
in my home, and you were over there a lot. But no, it was, you are doing this, do as we say, or else there are consequences. And the consequences are why we probably grew up needing a therapist ourselves. But, it's just knowing that I am healed of that, right? That is in my past. And today I have agency and I have people around me. I have set up this support system around me that appreciates who I am so much, that they appreciate my yes, they appreciate my no, and they appreciate my voice, right?
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, it makes sense. It's just, I guess a matter of just applying it, right? And trusting yourself when you know you've had enough or not overcommitting.
Yeah, not overcommitting. I think it won't happen overnight. I don't think. I think, because I can hear people now saying, well, that's easier said than done. I can never tell my mom no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's not no this year for the big Christmas, whatever,
right.
But maybe it's practicing on, the smaller things throughout the week.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And really standing in the power of who you are. Actually, no, that's not going to work for me and my family this year. You know what I mean? I remember when my sister got married, I told this on another presentation. She would come here every year. And then my mother passed away. When my mother passed away, at this point, she had a newborn and she wasn't coming to Florida every year. Right. But that was very taxing for new parents who have a newborn to drive 7 hours.
Right.
But for us, that really affected us here in Florida.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
But she had to make a decision for her. She has agency. She had to make a decision for her and her nucleus family. And we had to respect that. Were we upset? Absolutely. It took us a good 2 years to get over that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Probably a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But we love her. We know that we're all in different stages of life. And so that works for her. And so we will disappoint people. But we have to be okay with that and knowing that my disappointment and my feelings, that's for me to work out.
Sure. Sure.
That's not for you to work out, chick.
Right.
You know, like if you disappoint me, then I need to go figure that out.
Right.
Right. So really disconnecting yourself from the expectations at the detriment of your mental health, right? Because we're talking about choosing your mental health, right? And want to choose that first, so that your season can be beautiful and merry and bright and all the things.
Right. That's good. Good nuggets. All right, I'm going to move on to another question. One of the recurring themes that I saw in my comment section over the 12 days were people talking about, having lost loved ones. You and I have both gone through losing a parent, or in my case, both. And that year of first is always such an emotional roller coaster. Like there's so many feelings that, one can experience. And so the question is, in a time and in a season that's supposed to be so full of joy, when you've got some painful things that you're dealing with, how do you navigate through that? Like when you don't want to attend the family's Christmas party, like how do you get through that? Let's just say that year of first of, losing a loved one or having something sad that had, or life-changing that has happened in your life, navigating through the holidays.
Yeah. Once again, I think that's a lot of people's testimony as it relates to, this is supposed to be this joyous, season, and I don't have joy right now, right? And not even the weather helps us, right?
Right.
Because it's darker.
Dark at 5:30 now.
It's darker. Yeah. It's colder.
Right.
So it's like the whole atmosphere is working against our joy, right? But again, I would say the same thing that we said in the first question, really choosing your mental health first, right? Now, when we lose someone, let's just say, and because that first year, it's tough. It's tough. You and I both.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good time now to just talk a little bit about trauma. Because I think a lot of us just kind of go through life, right? Traumatized, right? But we don't know it, right? So it's just like, oh yeah, I lost my mom and we had the funeral 2 weeks ago. Wait, that was traumatic, right?
Right.
Like you guys were best friends. You talked every single day, multiple times a day.
Right.
Let's treat that for what it is. Let's recognize the feelings and the feelings that are emoting or the feelings that are manifesting, right?
Yeah.
So we can walk through that, right? So, my definition of trauma, I actually have two definitions of trauma. Any shock, anything that shocks, anything that surprises you, any uncertainty, or any overwhelm of a flood of emotions, right? That you don't know when they're going to go away. And then my second definition of it is anything that changes your viewpoint of yourself, of others, or God in a negative way, right? So when you look at trauma from those two standpoints, anything that is shocking you, surprising you, overwhelming you with this flood of emotions, right? And anything that changes your viewpoint about yourself, others, and God, when you look at that, how many times have you been traumatized and not even treated as a trauma? Right?
Countless.
And so we're sitting here like, what's wrong with me? It's Christmas. Why don't I want to go to the Christmas dinner? Like, I don't know. Well, it's because there's some things we have gone through, right? That have caused us to be, traumatized. And so for that person that doesn't want to go to the Christmas dinner, right? I'd say, number one, no condemnation, right? There's no judgment here.
Yeah.
As I said in the first question, we have to choose our mental health first, making that a priority. So there's no judgment. And in addition to, I would encourage you to just kind of do another introspection, just like in the first question, do another introspection and ask yourself, am I dealing with some traumas, right, that need to be worked out, right? Because if there are, don't go to the Christmas dinner if it's safe for you,
Right.
right? Because a lot of times it could be your nervous system warning you or trying to protect you. You don't need to go to the Christmas dinner because Uncle Bob is there.
Right.
Right. So you don't want to ignore this trauma, right? And so if you do have the trauma, I would encourage you to do two things. Number one, don't go to the Christmas dinner if you don't want to. But then number two, don't isolate either. And so just because you're not going to the Christmas dinner where, you know, Uncle Bob and Aunt Teresa or whoever the persons or, you know, or the person is, get yourself around people that do love you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? People that you are comfortable with, people who do speak love and life over you, right? Because the isolating is not going to do anything but exacerbate the trauma. Right?
Sure.
You know what I mean? So yeah, and I think the last thing I would say is if trauma is something that you are struggling with, right, that you need to work out, I'd say definitely seek out professional help.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Talking about isolation, like the most recent when my dad passed back in 2020, it was right before the holidays. It was in November. And so, as a mom and a wife, it's hard for me to like isolate myself from people because I've got all my responsibilities here. But I did isolate my the grief and allowing myself to go through that process. And I remember because he passed, and then I had to do my 12 days of Christmas. Like it was starting like 3 days later. And I was like, I got to do this. I can't let my people down. And you were like, chick, allow yourself to grieve. And I'm like, no. I'm going to isolate this feeling and put it in a box over here. And girl, that whole campaign was just a mess. It was just a mess. Like I was like recording videos where I wasn't in the screen, and like it was so much going on, and so I isolated that emotion, and I didn't allow myself to deal with it, and when that wave, because for me, the grief came in waves. Like it wasn't like it would just like hit you with a ton of bricks, but sometimes, it would be a higher wave and then it would be a lower wave. But they say you never turn your back on the ocean.
Right. That's right. Mm-hmm.
Especially in Florida. So I turned my back on those waves, and when it came crashing, I fell so hard because I had that isolation that I forced myself to go through just wasn't the healthiest way to deal with it. So that was a very good lesson learned, and I think you made a very good point there.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of people need to hear that, because something like grief, if we do not process that, Dr. Kimberly, what does process mean? If we do not acknowledge it, if we do not talk about it, if we do not feel it, right? That is processing it, right? If we do not do that, it remains stuck. That trauma remains stuck, because what happens in the hippocampus of the brain, it causes you to be stuck, right? And so trauma can't just be isolated and ignored, right? It has to be worked out, right? It has to be processed and felt through. Once I start feeling my emotions, right? At that point, I'm working through healing. It feels better to pull back, to shrink back, and to isolate. It feels better in that moment.
Right.
I don't want to talk to you people like I'm good. But the long-term effect of that is detrimental. And so we definitely want to go ahead, again, acknowledge it. And to your point about grief, you felt like it was kind of going up and down. With grief, it isn't linear, right? It isn't, you're going to feel this, and then at this point, you're going to be good, right?
No. Yeah, it doesn't work like that.
And we want that to happen.
Right.
And so because we want that to happen, we're kind of working against the healing process, right? And it's like, well, today I'm just not feeling my best. So let me call a thing a thing.
Right.
Let me feel it. Let me allow these motions to manifest through me, right? So that I can get on the other side of the healing. So thank you for sharing that. And one thing, I would say too is, if you're not feeling merry and bright, if you're not feeling like this season is the most wonderful time of the year,
right?
Let it be that. Let it be the not so most wonderful time of the year, right?
It doesn't make you a Grinch.
Right, it does not, right? This is not the time. You and I were talking about this yesterday. This is not the time to be faking it till you make it.
Right.
In fact, so many of us have done that, which is why we're in the emotional state that we're in, the mental state that we're in, and even physical state that we're in, because our emotions and our mental health affect our physical health, right?
Sure.
It can cause the high blood pressures and the other things, right? And so faking it till we make it, and isolating, and hey, I'm good, everything's fine. And, you know what I mean? It's not right. It's not working for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, now, back to your question now, for those folks who, now I feel like I spoke to the folks that didn't want to go to the Christmas dinner, right? Let's just say you're like, I'm good. I'm going to go to the Christmas dinner.
Okay.
Right? You're feeling courageous, right? Not.
We're not going to sit next to Uncle Bob. We're going to sit down on the other side of the table.
You're feeling courageous. And let me just say, for the person that decides, I don't need to go to this dinner.
Yeah.
Right? It is safer for me to not go. That is a courageous decision. I want to say that. Because it takes courage to say, hey, actually, I'm going to be unable to make it. Now, for the person that makes the courageous decision to go, I would say a couple things to them as well. Number one, evaluate your expectations. You know what I mean?
Sure.
If you did not get what you needed as a child from your family, for example, intimacy, connectivity, appreciation, protection, right? If you get those things when you were a child, you're probably not going to get them at the Christmas dinner. Right? So if you're making the courageous decision to go in there, I want you to just really check your expectations, right? Because if your father wasn't touchy-feely and at a girl, he's not going to do that when you give him his Christmas gift, right?
True story.
Yeah. And so when you go to that Christmas dinner, just be ready for that. And in addition to that, understand too that, you may have been doing the work. Maybe you have a counselor, right? You got a life coach.
Yep.
You're going to see your pastor for weekly meetings and all the things, and you've been doing the work.
Right.
Listen, don't expect Aunt Linda to be a different person, right? Because guess what? Aunt Linda ain't been going to see the pastor, right? Aunt Linda is not going to go pay $200-$300 for a therapist.
Right.
Aunt Linda ain't doing it.
Right.
Okay, so understand that just because you have evolved, right? You have grown, you've become a different person, you've been healed.
Yeah.
A lot of people at that dinner table probably have not, right? And so again, just really checking the expectations when you go in there.
Sure.
And then also, again, if you're moving in the courageous decision to go, I would encourage you to lead with compassion.
Sure.
right? To go in there knowing that, you know what, every time I go, Aunt Linda tells me that I've gained 5 more pounds.
I feel like you were here the last time. You done put on a little weight, Melonie. You done put on a little weight. Yeah.
For all the single people out there, which, you know, this is my story, every single time.
You still ain't got no man.
You still ain't got married. Do you even want to get married? And people are asking you these questions and making these statements, or maybe you're the married couple who's been married for 3-5 years, and people are like, "Why haven't you had a baby yet?" Right. As disrespectful, and hurtful as that question is, right. So again, managing those expectations, but leading with compassion, understanding that some people just don't know when they say, "Oh, it looks like you put on a little weight." It hasn't really registered for them, that isn't the kindest thing to say, right? For them, they're just stating a fact.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I have, but I'd rather not talk about it. But thanks. So, you know, in order to lead with compassion, it's going to require you to go into that environment with a level of grace.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And I don't know about you, but I guess all my aunts and uncles get a free pass because they're all over 75 at this point.
Sure.
So it's easy for me to extend grace, right?
Yeah.
When hurtful things are said, just because of their age. But just know that that's going to come with the territory of making that courageous decision.
Sure.
Yeah.
Girl, this has gone way longer than I had planned, and I know you've got things to do.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
I appreciate you so much.
It's up to you.
I'll give you a chance here to wrap up if there's anything else any other tips that you have for, making the rest of the season merry and bright, and then let everyone know how they can get in contact with you if they want to talk to you one-on-one, please.
Yeah. Well, I have certainly had fun doing this. But if your season is not very merry and bright right now, I would say 2 words, which really kind of sums up everything we've talked about, and that's self-care.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Too many times do we put other people's needs and wants and things ahead of our own. And it comes at the detriment of our own mental health, which again affects our physical health, right? So really incorporating things that we talked about earlier, but incorporating relaxation, right? Incorporating, and when I say incorporating that, chick, I mean actually planning
it, right?
Right. How many times have you heard a girlfriend say, "Girl, I need a massage, but I don't have time for that."
Yeah. Schedule one.
I mean?
Yeah.
Right. Schedule one. And so it's going to require us to actually put that in the schedule. That's just as important as picking Junior up and taking him to soccer practice.
Right.
Because those things are on the schedule.
Right.
So, definitely planning for that, because we can get so lost in the hustle and bustle, of the holidays. Mm-hmm. And that's when it's not merry and bright. Right. You know what I mean? And life is already lifing.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we already have to deal with, the transitions and just everything that life brings in, the homework, the daycare, the marriage, right? Just all the things that we have to deal with. And so the holidays just kind of highlight or exacerbates all of that. And so you end up being last on the list and hating the season, right?
And going into your next year exhausted when you should really be taking the time to feel refreshed, right?
That part. That's exactly right. And so I think one way to do that is making sure you keep a healthy routine. You know what I mean? When you want to focus, when you're focusing on you, I think the first thing is, let's talk about hygiene. You know, and that's super important, because sometimes things can get so rough where, you know, I have some clients where it is a struggle for them to even get out of the bed.
Yeah. I've been there.
You know,
Yeah.
right? It's a struggle to take a shower.
Yeah.
And just for this moment, for anyone who is watching this, where it was a struggle for you to get out of the bed, and you did get out of the bed, and you're on here, you know, watching, you know, us, I just want to celebrate you right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yay for you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That can be a feat, right? And it's nothing to be ashamed or embarrassed about, right? So making sure you're keeping that healthy routine, drinking your water, exercising, simple things like taking vitamins B and D,
True.
to boost that energy, right?
Yep.
Because we get less sun during this season.
Right.
And so we certainly need those vitamins, right? Other health, what do you call that? Self-help, or not self-help, self-care ideas, opening windows.
Got mine open right now.
Yes, that's why you look so beautiful. That light's on you. I open up every morning. The first thing I do is open up these windows, right? Get some light in the house, right? Change that atmosphere around you. Get some plants, bring some life in the home. You know what I mean? Allow yourself, we talked about this earlier, but allow yourself to feel your feelings.
Yeah.
Just because it's Christmas, right, doesn't mean I can't feel my feelings. I need to feel my feelings, right? Getting a massage, taking a walk. It doesn't even have to cost anything.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It could be taking a break. And, you know, as I said earlier, as it relates to knowing yourself, you know, I remember before I took a temperament test to just kind of figure out how you're wired, I didn't know why it seemed like I would give out of gas so quickly. You know, I'd go visit my sister and she'd have like 14 things planned, right? We're going to have this one. We're going to meet Susie for this. We're doing that. And I'd be exhausted after like number 3. Right. And then when I took that temperament test to really get to know who I was, I realized I need time to recharge every couple hours, right? But if I don't know myself, I don't know that. Right. So, you know, self-care can be as simple as taking a Yuletide break, you know?
I love it.
Watching a Hallmark movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, self-care would definitely be my answer there. Okay. Don't put yourself last, right? Because when we do, actually, the ones that we do love, they suffer because we need to be together and whole and all the things and healthy so that we can pour into the ones that we love, right? We're not doing anyone any favors being a superwoman or Superman with a cape on, right?
Secure your own oxygen mask first before you...
Oh, I love that. I tell my clients that all the time.
Yeah, it's true.
Or you put your oxygen mask, and obviously she's referring to being on a flight when they give you that safety speech, right? And they tell you, hey, put yours on before you go and help your child or help the person next to you, right? Because they need you well.
Right. Won't help if ain't none of us breathing up in here. So.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
Chick.
So, Chick, you know, I have to say this because people talk about mental health all the time. And I just want to be clear on what mental health is, right? Mental health is our emotional, our psychological, and our social well-being, right? So it's a lot of things combined, right? It's not just and mental. It's not just our mind, but it's our emotional, psychological, mental, and social well-being. And when any of that is off, it can affect how we think, how we feel, and how we act. And it will also determine how you handle stress and how you make decisions.
Okay.
And so I just wanted your community to understand how vast mental health is, It doesn't mean that we throw out terms like crazy all the time, but it doesn't mean that you're crazy. It just means that something's off emotionally or psychologically or socially right now. And we got to get that intact because it's going to affect the rest of your life, right? And that's worth prioritizing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, girl. I love you.
I love you too. I love you too. Love your community. I wanted to say to you, because I've been calling you Queen of Christmas for years, but I need you to know that this. Beyond the decor, beyond everything you show us to do, I believe that this is the most important gift that you could have given your community this season, with everything that has transpired since the pandemic.
Right.
This is what the community needs. So thank you for just taking a short break. I know your hands would rather be in a Christmas tree. Or setting a table. But I want to thank you for making this work that I do, available to people. And thank you for your influence as it relates to removing the shame that comes with mental health, right? And removing, the silence. When we are silent and when we are shameful, that's when we lose. Sure. But there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I need help. You know what I mean? Or, hey, something's not right, you know? So thank you. I love you too.
I love you too. All right. So I will post tell me your website, because I have a few for you. I want to send people to it.
It is My Life Restored Counseling. It's kind of long. MyLifeRestoredCounseling.com.
Okay. And I'll make sure all of your contact information is listed in the description box below.
And everything is at MyLifeRestoredCounseling.com.
Okay. I'll put all your socials on there too. I love you. Merry Christmas.
I love you.
Thank you so much. Everybody. And until next time, everyone, love and peace. Bye, Chick.
Bye.